Not being able to use your faucets in your home safely impacts every part of your life. It messes with your psyche. Yeah, that's it. There are days where I just feel like I can't live like this. I can't raise my kids like this. I am determined that this will not be our life forever. We got a letter from the Yakima Training Center requesting permission to test our well. We got our results back. We found PFAS in your water. They hand deliver that, but they also hand deliver bottled water. And on that day, all of the neighbors were getting letters. Once I knew that my well was so contaminated and that there were people that I love around me that hadn't been tested yet or didn't know anything about it, we wanted people to know there's a possibility you could be drinking this poison.
PFAS is a shorthand for perfluoroalkyl substances, a class of chemicals with negative health effects. They're often referred to as forever chemicals because they just simply do not break down. These are ingredients in firefighting foams or fire suppression foams. They would basically dig a pit in the ground and fill it with off-spec oil or diesel, light it on fire, and then practice putting out those fires with the fire suppression foams. So we know of one pit of that type that occurred out here. That one was closed in the late 1980s, and we've actually dug up all the soil and impacted contaminants associated with that. Through the 80s, we have records of that happening, and into the early 90s before that practice was stopped. PFAS components have been released into the environment and migrated into the groundwater. And that groundwater has, over the years, eventually migrated off-site and is impacting wells of the neighborhood to the west of the training center. If the level of PFAS contamination is above 70 parts per trillion, they will offer bottled water to the residents of that home.
We put a ribbon on here just to remind ourselves that when you use this tap, that's not safe water. We had no clue about there was any contaminants in this area. Our well is contaminated. The normal safe level that they're using as a guideline is 70 parts per trillion, and our test came in at 870 parts per trillion. So it's not safe to drink, it's not safe to cook with. We drank this water for 14 years and bathed in it for 14 years. Our daughter also lives 2 doors down from us. We love living here, looking at it as also as part of our retirement finances. And right now our property value dropped almost completely. It took us a while for it to really sink in how it was going to affect our lives, our families, our animals, and the anger started manufacturing. People's lives are going to be permanently changed because of the contamination of our wells.
It's called a forever chemical. You can't cook them out, you can't disinfect them out, and do cause things like testicular cancer, liver cancer, a whole raft of things. We've got 12 acres here. We've been raising cows and chickens.
We're having to haul in a lot of water. And right now the training center isn't, helping us with that. Most of the people at the training center weren't here when all this was happening, and so it's hard to be upset with them, but it does affect us, and we'd like them to move faster. We'd like them to have the problem solved.
First 4 months of their life, they were both in Seattle because Bowen has a heart defect. His defect is hypoplastic left heart, and his left ventricle didn't form. I'm really lucky that he's here. He has one more open heart surgery, hopefully. It'll be when he's 3 years old. He's just really lucky to be alive. Of course, my mind thinks that maybe it could have been something that caused this instead of, you know, just happening. I've lived in Selah pretty much my whole life. I've been drinking the water and everything almost my whole life. I had a miscarriage right before the babies, the twins. I tried talking to some of the doctors about that down there, and they didn't have a clue what even PFAS was. We were part of that first 8 houses, and finding out that our well came back bad, they said, we're going to be bringing you water. At first it wasn't too much of an inconvenience because I only had Hank, my 3-year-old. But now it's such a huge inconvenience to have them bring us the water. It's not doable. And every time my son takes a shower and he's putting the water in his mouth, I have to tell him this water's bad. We wash our dishes with it because I don't have time to do dishes by hand every day. I have to use, the dishwasher, having the 3 kids. So yeah, I always constantly think about that the chemical in the water, and I'm almost forced to use it.
You got the towels?
Yep.
Got the
Yep.
kids?
Yep.
Oh, do you have your water shoes?
We only have been granted bottled water by the training center, and we don't have a safe way to bathe or shower. If you talk to some people like the Department of Health, they're going to say that your skin is a relatively good barrier. Well, we've already been drinking this by the gallons and raising our children on it, and our well tested way above the previous EPA number of 70. So my husband and I felt that we cannot knowingly expose our children anymore. We decided to go get a membership at our local YMCA that has an aquatic center so that it's a fun thing. We go down the water slides, we play in the pool, and then we just take a shower when we're done. It is less than ideal, but it feels like a better choice for us now than our other option, which is to put our kids in a pool of PFAS. You know, they say to not get it in your mouth and in your eyes, or if you have any cuts or open wounds. When the Department of Health says, and just be sure you're showering in a well-ventilated area so that you're not breathing in the steam. If they're telling you not to breathe in the steam, do you think that's safe? Like, I'm trembling right now because it makes me so frustrated that we can't do better for people.
We're not going to wait. We can't wait for the military or Department of Defense or Pentagon or whoever is going to help to do anything. We decided then to go ahead, and we did quite a bit of research. Initially we were looking at RO systems. We want it throughout the whole house. We want to have it treated through the whole, and that's what this system does. It tested, the military contracted with this company. Our test results were 563 parts per trillion. That's a combination of PFAS and PFAS. With this system, post-installation, non-detectable. So we don't worry when you're brushing your teeth or taking a shower. We're lucky, I guess. We're on the lucky end of it. We were able to drag it out of this account and put it over here. We were going to use that for that, but now we're going to have to use it for that. But not everybody can do that. And we didn't want to do it. But really, we kind of had to.
And what was your cost for the system?
Just over $7,000. At least we have water that's not toxic and not contaminated with this stuff. Now, how long is that going to go? We'll see. I don't think the military, there's no malice here. It's just something that happened. But I didn't do it, and it's affected me, both financially, health-wise, and whatever else. And so, shouldn't somebody step up to the plate and be responsible for that?
Long term, we need like filtration systems on our homes, and we need ways to have like a safe bath for our babies and a safe shower for ourselves. We just want to be safe in our homes.
It'd be nice if they just owned up to what they've done. There is solutions out there. It'd be nice if they could just install systems in people's homes. Because I can't front $10,000.
You know, I trying to look down the road. Boy. This is bigger than we ever thought we'd have to be dealing with something in our lives. They need to step up to the plate, do what they've recognized that they are responsible for, and do something to communicate what they're doing and quit putting us on the back burner.
We understand that it's a huge issue. It's this hard problem that's not going away, but we're not going away either. Like we are trying to do the best we can for everyone.